Downing Street has hit back at comments made here in Davos, in which the Chancellor Philip Hammond said that changes to the UK's relationship with the EU after Brexit would be very modest. A Downing Street spokesperson has said that while Britain seeks a deep and special economic partnership, the changes could not be described as modest. Well, Owen Paterson is the Conservative MP for North Shropshire and a former Environment Secretary. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
What do you think of what the Chancellor said and how the Prime Minister's responded?
Oh, well, I'm very pleased the Prime Minister's restated government policy. We were absolutely clear during the referendum campaign. We were clear in the Conservative manifesto. She was very clear in the Lancaster House speech that leaving and taking back control means leaving the single market, leaving the customs union, and leaving the remit of the European Court of Justice. And she's made it very clear in her statements in the Commons that we want to embrace the advantages of leaving the customs union, being able to trade around the world. So the very day that President Trump turns up, make it very clear he wants to do a lot more trade with us and sees us a big future partner and a big ally on bodies like the World Trade Organization. It was unfortunate that the Chancellor appeared to be transmitting the standard Treasury view that this is all a nightmare, all a big mistake, and it should be minimised. And what they really want is effectively Brino, which is Brexit in name only. And what's a pity is he didn't articulate, the really wonderful opportunities as the rest of the world grows so fast. The European Union itself is saying that growth is going to be 90% outside the European Union. And that's what we should be talking about in Davos.
He clarified his remarks later on and said that the point he's making is about the baseline from which the UK and the EU's economies are the way that they're highly aligned in the first place. Now, you mentioned the Treasury there. Do you think then that this was an example of a different agenda that the Treasury has, and what does that mean if that is the case in your view?
Well, I think we know all along that the Treasury has loathed this. The Treasury put out ludicrous forecasts as part of Project Fear before the referendum campaign really took off, all of which have been proved completely false. The Treasury does not like this. But what it's ignoring is what's happening in the rest of the world. And if you look at it, 12% of the UK's GDP goes in exports to Europe. The growth is going to be in the rest of the world, where we have a huge surplus at the moment.
So if the Treasury is getting it so wrong, then what should happen to the Chancellor? What should the Prime Minister do?
Well, I think it's a very good thing that the First Lord of the Treasury, the Prime Minister, corrected these few, quite a small number of ill-chosen words. And don't forget, he did correct himself. He did put out a tweet quite rapidly afterwards saying, we are going to leave the customs union, are going to leave the single market. But the point I'm trying to make is that he's not articulating the tremendous optimistic vision some of us have once we leave, and the benefits often to our most disadvantaged people. If we come out of the customs union and we get escape from the common external tariff, a lot of everyday products like clothing, footwear, food come down. That represents, in some people, it's 21% of their average spend. Now that's going to benefit every single family right across the UK.
So as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, has Downing Street said enough? What would you say to those of your fellow Tory MPs who are reported to have written to Sir Graham Brady calling for a leadership challenge?
Oh, I think all this leadership stuff is all just very unhelpful. We have a clearly enunciated government policy, which, as I said, was voted for by, 16.7 million people. Got the second largest vote in UK history elections. We made it very clear we're going to leave the single market, leave the customs union, leave the ECJ. The Lancaster House speech was crystal clear on those matters. We have a clear government policy, and it would be very good if all cabinet ministers rode in behind it, but also explained the great advantages for the future once we do leave these. This is not some sort of pain to be got through and to be minimised. There are real opportunities if we have the freedom to negotiate trade deals around the world, and to reduce cost burdens on our own industry and reduce costs for our hard-working families.
Owen Paterson, thank you.